Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox, and somewhat different this time. It's one of the joint Craig Houston and Silver Fox videos. I do enjoy talking to Craig. He's such a good character, and he's a man who's deeply involved, deeply aware, and has a very analytical mind. And I hope that that comes out over the course of our short conversation that you're about to see. So I will present it to you now. I'm not going to wait any further. I will ask only one thing. This is the last video of the day that I'm presenting, the last of the long forms, and in this case, very long form. So do please feel free to hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet, and to like the video, definitely, because that really does help get it out there. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. There will be some shorts going through. At least one, because I've already done one, and at least one more to go, I would imagine. Other than that, enjoy. Here's me and Craig in conversation, and it will just run off to black at the end. I'm not going to come back up. Take care. Goodbye. So, hi. As you can see, I'm here once again with Craig. We're going to have a little chat about things that are going on. There's a couple of things that are very specific for Craig, which I did a video earlier, and I did a link to Craig's video. So if you haven't yet seen that, once you finish watching this, nip across and watch that, because he's given a speech. But we will talk about his speech in a minute. Now, Craig, lovely to have you on here again.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, we started to do this on a regular basis. I quite like it. It's very good. People enjoy it. Keep getting a lot of positive feedback with it. Now, there are a few things that have happened very, very quickly, and I just want to go over them before we cut to your speech. And it's something to do with the duality of laws, it seems, or the duality of justice in Scotland, because in the last 24 hours, Hamza Yousaf has had racist graffiti, and then Ben McPherson had his offices vandalised, just paint thrown up. Nothing written, just vandalised with paint turned up. Now, we've both seen the reports saying the things that Police Scotland aren't going to respond to, vandalism and graffiti being those things. And it's funny how Police Scotland attended to both of these events. Seems to be one set of legal precedent for us normies, us plebs. But if you're in the SNP, different kind of policing, isn't it?
Yeah. The recent problem we've had with Police Scotland up here. Recently, there was they done a sort of sample of crimes in the northeast of Scotland, and what they decided to do was they only investigated some of them, and that was basically low-level crimes where the person making the complaint could provide some sort of evidence for the police to go on. But other crimes, like, for example, someone wakes up in the morning, they find their garden shed's been broken into, unless they can give the police times, maybe a description or provide CCTV, they didn't investigate them. They filed them and said, well, we can't really do anything with that because we've got absolutely zero to start with. We'll put them in a box, and if 6 months from now, evidence comes in that we can use, then we might take it and investigate it then. So the Police Scotland decided that was quite a good example up there, and they're going to spread that out to the whole country. So now we've got, criminals aren't stupid. They'll figure out quite quickly what crimes will not even get investigated. And it's become now the duty of the public to provide evidence, which seems a bit odd. So
citizen policing.
And the bizarre thing is, the situation, I could go to my bed tonight, my lockup could get broken into, I could have something stolen out of it, I can't provide CCTV for evidence, I don't have any idea who it is, and I want to report that as a crime tomorrow. There's a fair chance Police Scotland wouldn't investigate it. However, while I'm in my bed that night, if I take to Twitter and put something nasty on, that will definitely get investigated. Now, that's not to say it would turn into an arrest. That just means it would get investigated. So I find the whole thing proper bizarre.
Real crimes ignored, but, saying something bad, we've got to investigate it.
Yeah. And two things that I thought were a bit strange about the stories. The first one was they were getting investigated, so that would therefore suggest to me that they had some sort of evidence, or they're going against their sort of new policy. Now, that could be CCTV, which I would imagine the one that was a paramilitary office might very well have. The other thing I found weird was, having never been to Broughty Ferry, so I have no idea of the scale of the town. But apparently this was really offensive because it was, close to Hums's house.
Yeah.
It was a council estate.
Mm.
I'm not suggesting that makes it wrong or right. I just think the way it's been reported,
Yeah.
and obviously Hums is very good at this. He plays the victim card well.
Yeah, that's something I was going to say, because it wasn't on his property. Initially, it was all up, and there were media sort of pushing, oh, he's had all this nasty graffiti, on or at his property, I think is what they said.
Yeah.
But it turns out it wasn't at his property. It was down the road, round the corner, in a different street, and he happened to drive past it. So there's no direct connection.
Did he drive past
what
it?
was sprayed and him?
Yeah, I'm actually going to look more into this one, as you can probably imagine, because I am an inquisitive fellow, and get a look at the map, because the photograph used by some of the newspapers quite clearly show the street and the house number that the graffiti was on. And I want to have a look at that and try and figure out where the posh streets are. And, you probably find that it's out in a corner of the town that you would only need to drive past if you were going to the houses either side of it. But listen, nobody's suggesting that graffiti's nice. Nobody's suggesting that some of the terminology used in that graffiti is nice. That's not the point.
I mean, racism is racism. I disagree with it at all.
Yeah.
And it's going to be thickies. It's going to be kids off the estate, or it's going to be a couple of particularly nasty brutish shorts. It's not going to be sort of normal people doing that, because normal people generally don't. It's low level crime.
Islam.
Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of thing. And it genuinely it's wrong. And also, I just don't like graffiti anyway. I think it looks awful. Brings the place down. It's the broken window syndrome.
I was once a sales director for an industrial cleaning company in London, and we charged a fortune for graffiti.
You must have loved graffiti.
And I joked once in a quiet time we should pay some scallies away to go and graffiti some of the boroughs that we'd done work for, but I obviously didn't do that.
Oh, yes, the old glazier, isn't it? Sends his kids out. Go smash the windows for me. I need the money.
So no, I'm not a great fan of graffiti, but I do have to put my hand up and say that obviously I indirectly did profit from it for a short while in my life.
Right. Well, it was that, and there was another quick one before we get onto your Edinburgh one, and it's just a very quick thing, which I love the fact, and I've done the story on this today, that the good ladies of Scotland, 4 Women Scotland, Women Won't Weashed and all that, have picked up on what the SNP are doing, and they're all out and they're buying burner phones so that when they communicate with each other, they won't ever get prosecuted because there's no evidence.
Yeah. Is this a new thing, is it? I've missed it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've just come out to that. Just a story today. And I just thought, right on it, lasses. Do it. I mean, they're going to be moaning, oh, that's not right. No. Hang on. It's what's good for the goose, good for the gander, isn't it?
I remember picking up about, probably just pre-Christmas, there was some SNP, I can't remember if it was MPs or MSPs, who had submitted claims for burner phones. I think there was 2, maybe 3 of them, and they defended it by saying it was for office staff, etc., through COVID. And I thought, well, that was a bit weird, because if you're doing that, you'd have done it sort of March or April 2020, and these things, some of them were a bit later. So is it a lot of them this time?
It's just the women. It's just like Women Won't Weashed and 4 Women Scotland and that. They're buying it to communicate with all the activist women who are like the TERFs. It's not the ones against it. It's the women themselves who want to protect women's rights, women's freedoms, women's spaces. It's your J.K. Rowling lot. They're all buying.
It's just that these are losing
the signal.
These earpods. So
it's the J.K. Rowling lot. They're all buying these burners to stop the woke weirdos prosecuting them, getting evidence and things. And if a policeman comes along, just throw your phone away, don't you? Ooh. Don't know what you're on about,
even gets that far. I think you probably watched the interview I done with the KC, and I suggested that I might get, the odd, maybe get a complaint on the 1st of April about me, and he laughed and said, I think you'll get more than that. Yeah. So, when they're investigating them, the investigation could be as much as 30 seconds, read a tweet and go, no criminality, and respond to the email, right? That might be how much an investigation goes. So you need to break the law to be worried about breaking the law. And you know, I've always been very careful what I say. I tend not to go around trying to upset people and try to stir and incite hate. And that's basically what you need to do to become, you know, convicted of any of this stuff. So,
that's just the conviction,
you know,
but it's not the inconvenience of being questioned or investigated or having a knock at the door. You know.
Yeah, the procedure is the problem. You know, but as I say, you know, most of the investigations, I'm quite happy to suggest they'll just be somebody looks at it and thinks you're off your nut. That's a stupid thing to complain about, and that'll be it.
I think most complaints will be that way. The fact is, they've got to be looked at, they've got to be reported, and they've got to be responded to, and all of that takes time. And it will tie up the police. And that's when the police will go back to them and say, for God's sake, will you take this away? And that's when we win.
Possibly. Possibly.
Anyway, the main cut and thrust of this meeting we're having now. Your meeting, Edinburgh, yesterday, Holyrood, outside Holyrood.
Yeah.
In the wet, by the look of it. Was it wet?
Yeah. Well, it's Scotland, wasn't
it? So I watched your video. I saw that, and you were introduced very nicely. And then you got up and you called it as it was.
And
I thought you did very well. You know, you're obviously someone. You're obviously someone who's addressed crowds before.
Sorry, I missed that. That cut out.
I said you're obviously someone who stood and addressed a crowd before.
Unfortunately, yes, a few times back 2012 to 2015 when I was doing a bit of campaigning about football. And I thought my days of that were over. I thought my campaigning days were over, but the SNP put paid to that by repeatedly annoying me as a Scottish civilian. And here we are. So I got a call into Scottish Glasgow Cabby, a couple of weeks ago. And he was saying he was thinking about doing this event, and if he could get at least 500 people to say they were going, he was going to do it. And would I mind going and talking at it? Which I thought, well, I won that. Yeah, it's a great thing. And if you get the numbers when you're going to do it, then I would love to support it. I was quite humbled they asked me, because there's far more people involved in the political scene up here with far more experience than me at public speaking and just, you know, dealing with protests. So it was a first for me going to a political protest, first time ever in my life, and obviously speaking was a bit random, but I was nervous. However, the nerves were away by the time I got to the stage. I came out of my car and I went to check the pay-as-you-go thing on the car park, and there was a guy who came up right away to shake my hand, say he watched the channel, and I was like, wow, my girlfriend was a bit embarrassed by this. And then we were sort of walked.
Oh, you know what you are now, though, don't you, Craig? You're internet famous.
Yeah, or infamous.
Internet infamous, yeah.
Yeah, and that could be a short-lived career, so you've got to take that with a pinch of salt. You know, I've had a wee bit of notoriety previous in my life, and when you're front and centre, you're well remembered, and then, you know, a few months after it, you're not so much. So, you know, it's just part of the package. But when I got into I think there are a couple of people on the way around the corner to get to the front of Parliament, you know, come up as well, and then could hardly walk 5-10 yards without people coming up. It was very, very, very humbling. And
but it shows the level of support you've got, doesn't it? If you're getting people like that coming up, randos in the street going, Craig, you're doing well, blah blah blah. It's heartening, isn't it?
To be fair, you know, I'm not saying I didn't expect it. I've had people when I'm maybe in local grocery stores and shops near my house, people, you know, maybe come up and mention it to watch your videos and stuff. So I wasn't shocked that it happened. That, you know, if it happened once or twice, it would have probably been, you know, I wouldn't have been surprised by it. It was just the sheer volume. It was honestly, it was so humbling position to be in. And then, you know, the people that were there that have, you know, been doing it for a long time, Glasgow Cabby, the boys for the family party, etc. They're all great. You know, they're all treated me well. I was shown great respect there, and it was a fantastic couple of hours.
And your speech was a good speech, and I'll tell you why it was a good speech. It was short. You didn't ramble on. It was what, 6 minutes, something like that. You were up, you said your piece, there was a couple of bits of laughter in the middle of it. You got to the end, you had your rousing end, and then you bowed out gracefully. And that makes a good speech. It's not like these old politicians that stand up there for 40 minutes and just, and you expect the old performing seals at the end of it. Your cheers at the end, well, I think, they were genuine, they were heartfelt.
Yeah. Well, we were asked to stick to a sort of 4-minute schedule, and I think it was like 5 minutes between speakers, so it gave a little bit of the bit in the middle where the guy was introducing and etc. So I tried to do that. I think my speech, I timed it. It was about 4.5 minutes when I was testing it. But when you get up the stage and people,
you kept getting interrupted as well.
Pausing,
that's
so,
it. Yeah. So I just stretched it out a little bit. I think it came out to just under 6 minutes all in as I watched it. But it was absolutely fine.
Yeah, and I think what got me was saying it was like 50-50 for the crowd, but there was nationalists in that crowd as well, and they weren't there to heckle, they were there in support. And I think that's important, because we sometimes think it's only unionists in Scotland that want to rid Scotland of the SNP, but there's a fair number now, and rising, of nationalists who also feel alienated and let down by the SNP. And I just wish Westminster would hurry up and call the election so I can crack on with what I intend to do when the election campaign is underway. And at the end of that process,
any spoiler? Is what you're going to do a secret, or are you going to drop a spoiler?
No, I spoke about it yesterday, and I'll not be telling any Scotch person what to do. It's not my makeup. But what I will do is I'll tell folk what I'm going to do, explain why I'm doing it, and the hope that they see sense and may or may not wish to follow me, and that is simply to tactically vote.
That's what I've been pushing. I've been pushing that.
Yeah,
look to see. Don't look to see who you're going to vote for. Look to see who you're going to vote against, and get them out.
Yeah, it was funny. I was talking to a guy. I'm sure his name's Guerrilla News or something. He was recording it last live, and I bumped into him. I didn't realise he was going live. And he just done a sort of ad hoc interview with me before and after the event, because my camera was set up next to his. And when I was walking back to get my camera, I'd done another couple of minutes, and he was saying that he wanted to vote reform. He felt this was a great time and a great opportunity for these new parties to freshen things up a bit. So that's a great idea, but the day after the election, when you realise it's made no dent whatsoever into the SNP, you've got no route to complain. And I think it is
all you've done, if you vote reform, normally what you'll find is you're just going to reduce an already reduced Tory vote. You're not going to vote. There's very few. How can we put this? I don't think there'll be many constituencies that will return a reform candidate as an MP, but people voting reform will definitely whittle out quite a few Conservative MPs.
Possible, but and up here, my main aim is to get a big dent as possible at Westminster election from SNP. And if you imagine, can you imagine if we had a similar situation to America, where there was two parties, you could get rid of the SNP rather easily, because you've only got, you either like them or you dislike them. And I think we're at a point now after
when you've only got two parties, though, it's a net zero, isn't it? Lose one, gain one. Whereas when you've got multiple parties, we basically four parties really, possibly fifth perhaps, but you've got four main parties, and so the maths become very, very complex, don't they?
Yeah, I remember talking to there was an attempt at getting the unionists to tactically vote. I think it was 2017 election, from memory. I might be wrong with that. And I was talking to one of the boys in the pub about it before I was politically engaged. Yeah, and he's like, "How are you going to vote?" I says, "Oh, I'm voting Labour." And he looked at me shocked. I mean, I didn't realise you were a Labour socialist. I went, "I'm not. I just hate the SNP." So, and he's like, "Well, you need to vote Tory then." I went, "Well, no, I don't, because Tory will not get enough. They're never going to win the seat."
No.
So anyway, the election finished, and I'm sure it was 2017, and the local candidate for SNP won by less than 100 seats, and Tories get through 5,500 votes. So I was saying to the guy, you can't moan about SNP getting in here, because your vote helped them get in.
You vote Tory to get them in. Yeah.
You voted Tory to get them in. And I think I'm going to do a video this afternoon explaining what I was suggesting. That a few people have asked me, what were you talking about? Oh, hold on.
Have you?
I've lost you. Hold on, I've now jumped
No,
on.
I've
I'm
got
listening to
you.
a bloody.
I can see you.
No, I
Technical difficulty.
can't. Aye, my ears went to
Can you
a
hear me?
video there on YouTube. I don't know why. Right, and I'm back in the room. Right, sorry about
I
that.
can put
So
that
that,
on. Do, 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 do. Technical
I
difficulties.
I tend to, I tend to, what I intend to do this afternoon is do a short video just explaining further what I was talking about when I'm saying about tactically voting, because a lot of people have asked me about it and just say, well,
Yeah.
this is what I'm going to do. I've already had one of the main parties offer to help me when the election's called and supply me with information.
Oh,
Now, I said,
cracking.
if you give me that information, I might be telling people in certain constituencies not to vote for you. Because just because you're helping me, I'm not going to, I'm not going to drive people to vote you and all. And they went, oh, it's fine.
They accept that.
That will help.
That's the cost
We
of
get the
doing
same
business
aim.
to get the SNP out, though, isn't it?
Yeah, they said we would be quite happy for the SNP to lose 20 seats in Westminster. So, and it's encouraging when these conversations take place. That I think, as I said yesterday, the big boy pants on and get on with running the country. And as I said, I genuinely believe if the Scottish public can tactically vote over the next two elections, this one at Westminster and whenever the Scottish election will come up in the next 2 years, we could actually bankrupt this mob.
Yeah, they'll be broken beyond repair. Yeah.
Not financially, but I mean, they're
that's what I mean.
bankrupt as it is. But
I mean, we know that, but they'll be broken.
Bankrupt.
They just won't have the money to fight. They'll be gone. They'll be finished. I heard a rumor, and it is just a rumor, so massive sprinkling of salt on this one, that they are putting their HQ up for rent. They're not renewing their lease on their HQ because they can't afford it.
Well, what I picked up from
that's the rumor.
Aye, this is one that maybe hit the hands of some spin doctors. Apparently what happens was when their lease comes up for renewal, it is automatically advertised by the landlord. Apparently there's some system that they just automatically, but they've just not signed a new lease, and that's all it is. But I don't know if that's spin or no spin. But
it sounds
I tell
dodgy.
you, there's very few things happen by coincidence. And if you think back over the last 6 to 9 months, how many SNP politicians and high-ranking politicians at that have suggested that the word nationalist in their name isn't so cuddly anymore, right? And stuff like that goes into my head, and I always question, why are you saying that? You've had the name for, I don't know, 60
since
years.
Formation, since 34 or whenever they formed.
Aye, and nobody's ever come out and said that, but it's happening more regular now. And I'm going, is that because they understand they might be bankrupt? And if they come up, fold that, bring up a new Phoenix company and call it the Scottish Lunatic Party or something more, I don't know, adapt for them.
Create a new company to avoid bankruptcy, but the same people just shift over, but the original company goes bankrupt and reneges on all its debts. Possible.
I imagine you'll have picked up and remember a few comments by 2 or 3 high Hegians over the last while that, telling you that this national. I think Nicola Sturgeon actually said if she had her way and she could rewind the clock, they would never have it in the name. And I'm like, why is that even a topic? Why, I don't see a journalist going to ask her about the COVID inquiry and suddenly say, what do you think of the name nationalist in your name, Nicola?
I mean, even at the height when you had the British National Party going, and the BNP was there, and that was all taken apart because it was all full of wankers, really. But everyone said, "Oh, look, it's got a national name, terrible, terrible, terrible." But nobody said that the Scottish National Party was that bad at the time. It's got the name national in. How come you can have a Scottish National Party but not a British National Party? What's the difference?
Yeah, but it's never been on the agenda.
That's right. Nobody's been having
debates about, and it just came right out the blue. I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense.
Are they gaslighting us? That's why so many are saying now they're trying to gaslight us into believing that they just randomly changed the name, rather than actually they're changing the whole basis of the party because the existing one's about to go tits.
It's a possibility.
Yeah,
and when you consider that it's only sort of high-ranking ones, I mean, even Humza made comment about it as well, and you're like, why is that even on the table? I mean, the way my head works, everything's got to be black or white. And when there's a grey area in it at all, that's when my head goes, whoa, 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 the alarm bells start going. And I certainly got that when I first heard this comment about the name, and I went, are they heading for a Phoenix company here?
Sounds like it. I think they know that they're bankrupt. I think because the last set of accounts, they said there were 800,000 in the hole. Well, that was then. They're easy, 1 million in the hole now. Got to be. They've got no corporate sponsorship. They've got falling actual numbers. They've had, they're getting increasingly fewer zombies given the money. They'll in the wills. And the corporates don't want to touch them because there's so many court cases going on. You know, you've got a company, you don't want to be aligned with a company that with a party that might be sending its people to prison, kind of thing. So they're absolutely screwed, and they've still got all those overheads. They're losing money hand over fist, and they've got and they've got an election to fight. They've got the cash for an election.
Well, this is a thing. I don't know what you call it when it's a party that does it, but a normal business PLC, the accounts you would normally are introduced by the chairman's notes. So I don't know what they call them in their accounts, but the equivalent to the chairman's notes was telling us that they were showing a deficit, but that's normal in an election year. And you're like, but there wasn't an election that year. There was, because you've got 2 years in accounts, you've got current year and then a comparison to the one previous
year comparison.
And one of them was an election year. And you're going, but you've got 2 years there. So even in a normal non-election year, you guys are hemorrhaging money. And then, you know, we've seen the story coming out about Alex Salmon suing Sturgeon and Liz Lloyd and another
wonk, one of the policy wonks.
I can't remember the name.
Yeah.
But the bizarre thing in that story was, I think it was the Daily Express that ran the story. They then went to the government for, they done an FOI, and the government revealed that they'd taken legal advice on the matter. And you're like, well, that means that we're paying for that.
Are they taking legal advice because they're going to fight it? How can they possibly fight it?
Maybe taking legal advice to get a lawyer to tell him how much he should pay Alec out his £3 million not to go to court.
Cough up. Don't take it to court. You're going to lose again in court.
Yeah. And that'll not be, you know, the fact it's the government, the Scott Gov, that replied to that FOI in that manner, not the SNP. So SNP have obviously managed to shove that responsibility.
But it isn't a government matter. The leader of the SNP is not a government matter. It's a party matter. It should be the party paying for that legal advice. It should be the legal advice should be coming back from a representative of the party, not the government. If they've managed to get that all put through government, that means the SNP have passed a party debt into public ownership. That can't be allowed, surely.
Scotland, isn't it?
I know, Jesus Christ, yes. That, and the top of course, you got Biffa. That's 100 million coming out as well.
What, sorry?
You know about Biffa, the waste product company, the waste company. They're suing the SNP government for 100 million.
Is this for the deposit return scheme scandal?
And if they go through, Tesco's, Morrison's, Sainsbury's, they'll all want their money. It's going to end up costing £250 million.
To put something in the bin. But it's amazing that the mind of the cult member, because I picked up somebody on Twitter the other day. They were saying that this scheme was all ready to go. It was just Westminster that stopped it, and you're thinking that's total bollocks.
That is bollocks.
That didn't happen.
No, Westminster said, "Off you go. You can go. You just can't have glass." And everyone went, "Oh, that's fine. No, glass. That's fine." And then she got a little strop on, stabbed her big, huge giraffe-like feet, and closed the whole thing down. Now she's trying to rewrite history. She's Stalinizing it, rubbing people out of pictures and things.
I was doing some consultancy work for a foreign drinks company that imported drink into Scotland for about a year. And it was in the run-up to this deposit return scheme. And they're like, well, what do we need to do? I said, you don't need to do anything. They're like, why not? And I went, because it'll not happen.
Yeah.
He's like, what? And that was advice I gave the guy. I went, it will not happen, because he was providing a drink.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the scheme and how, and I went, mate, don't spend a penny on it. It will not happen.
No.
It's impractical. It's unmanageable.
It was DOA, wasn't it? The moment you knew Lorna Slate was running it. You know, that's dead. That ain't gonna happen. Anyway, listen, I've just had a note up about the time because we're running out, because I'm not paying for Zoom Extra or whatever they call it. We just get a normal Zoom. So that's come up. So we'll round off that a little bit. There's one last thing I want to do before we go on this. And I did a video earlier, and we're talking about national anthems, all the national anthems of the home countries, all being a bit bloody miserable. You know, what would we have as a better national anthem? I said for England, Jerusalem. For Northern Ireland, the Bell of Belfast City. You know, for all Ireland, you'd have the last of the Irish Rovers. For Scotland, I suggested Scotland the Brave. Because anything's got a bit. Now, you're going to tell me that you love Flower of Scotland, aren't you?
No, I don't mind it. I mean, I don't. I mean, there's a lot of people up here take exception to the bit about, you know, anti-English bit of it, but
well, to be fair, the national anthem has got chapter verse 6, but General Wade and all that. So
yeah, but so it's maybe a one each draw, that one. But I remember as a kid, the Flower of Scotland was quite a recent thing when you're my age. Quite a recent thing.
60s, 1960s.
Yeah,
that's when it was written.
But in the 70s and 80s, it was Scotland the Brave.
Yeah, absolutely, much better.
You went to Hampden, and it was quite an uplifting tune.
That's it.
You didn't need to know the words. You just hummed it. Everybody just hummed Scotland the Brave. You know, it was. That was it, right? There was no. You didn't need to go to school and get a lesson on Scotland the Brave. So listen, I'm past caring. To be honest with you.
I suggested Donald, where's your trousers?
Yeah, that would be good. I remember Billy Connolly done quite a famous act about. I think it was one of his TV specials where he was suggesting that we should do away with the British national anthem because it was boring the hell out of everybody at the Olympics, and we were getting lapped before the thing even started with the banner and all these wee jabronians and all that running about. And it was, I think it was a theme for the Archers. He suggested we should have the British national anthem.
Someone suggested that in the comments earlier. Said a lot of people have said that already. Billy Connolly got it right. Do the Archers. Find some words, throw it up, and use the Archers theme tune.
And don't pick a Proclaimers one. You know, do my nothing.
Anyway, Craig, been an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much for being here. Glad to have seen you and chatted to you again. It's been very interesting. And thanks for that speech yesterday. It was fantastic. So I did put the link down earlier, but I'll put it down again if anyone wants to go and see it. Till next time we speak. Thank you very much, and goodbye.